In this demo, we are going to use TreeVersity2 to analyze the change in the total number of passengers flying in the US between 1990 and 2003. Here on the left, we can see a timeline showing the overall change of the number of passengers. That is showing us that between 1990 and 1991, there was a decrease of 15 million passengers. If we move to the next year, we see that there's a new tendency of increases between 91 that extends all the way up to 2001. To add a little bit more of information, we can include more elements from the data set provided by the Department of Transportation to say include the origin state from which the passengers took off. By doing that, we get a new hierarchy that will add a new level here to the TreeVersity and will show us all the different states with the total number of passengers and the changes by state. Each one of these boxes shows the change by state. Boxes going up or in green colors show increases, like here in California, and boxes going down, like this one in North Carolina, or in yellow and red colors show decreases. The height of the boxes shows the percentage of change. The color is the actual number of passengers changed, and the width of the boxes shows the ending value for the different states, showing that, for instance, California is the biggest state, which is corresponding to the biggest timeline on the left. And then if we follow the second timeline, we see that Texas is the second state, followed by Florida, at least in total number of passengers. If we continue the analysis by years, we see that overall there are many years in which some states are increasing and some other are decreasing. But if we continue all the way the tendency to 2001, we see that in that year there was a big decrease in the total number of passengers. This was due to the attacks of 9/11, in which the passengers were afraid to fly in the US, and there were some regulations that stopped the number of passengers. And we see that reflected in the total number of passengers flying by state. However, we focus our attention to this green box here in the middle. We see that there's at least one state, that is Maryland, that actually increased the number of passengers. Zoom into Maryland, you see that Maryland actually increased in 432,000 passengers. That is a 4% increase between 2000 and 2001. To add a little bit more of information, we can add also the origin cities from which the passengers took off. And then we will have a new layer in TreeVersity that will show us a little bit more of details of where the passengers came from. We see that Baltimore was the city providing the biggest number of passengers to Maryland. Zooming back out to the overview, we have now three levels, one for the overview total of passengers, one for the origin states, and one for the cities. And we see the biggest cities here being Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago. We have the timelines for them, and we see the changes by each city. You see that, again, that most of the cities are decreasing, but there are some green boxes that are actually increasing. To focus on those, we can add a filter that says to show only those things that are increasing. To do that, let me create an absolute difference filter, remove the bidirectionality option, and then add that we only want things between 0 and 48 million passengers, at least in change, and then we enable the filter. When we do that, notice that all the other cities disappear, and now we have only the increasing cities. We see that Baltimore is one of the biggest ones. Pittsburgh is also quite big in terms of the total number of passengers. But then there are some states like Florida, we zoom into that, in which some cities like Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, West Palm Beach, and Palm Beach, all of them are increasing in their number of passengers, but the state overall is decreasing. That is shown here with the yellow to red colors in the middle. That's showing the power of TreeVersity that not only show us the details on the leaves, but also the changes in the internet. So these filters are quite interesting for the different users because they were able to find interesting things that they already knew about. However, our domain experts in our case studies reported that they wanted to be able to explore these differences in a simpler way. So for that, we created a tool called the reporting tool that creates a textual representation with the most significant changes in the tree. So to show that, let me show all the nodes back again. And then here on the reporting tool, we have a list of elements, and we focus, for instance, here in absolute overall change, and we go into this option there. It says that there's 51 nodes that increase more than 1.78 thousand passengers. Those nodes are highlighted in the tree. When we click on that node, on that option in the reporting tool, we get again the increasing nodes. The same applies, showing back all the elements to, for instance, states that are increasing more or decreasing more than expected in relative or absolute change. For instance, this is showing that California is the state changes the most in absolute change, or that there are two origin states that are increasing in more than 11.7%, and that those are Maine and Vermont.